arts, culture, and entertainment in the Coachella Valley. This is The Desert Scene with Bonnie G. from the Mutual Broadcasting System. Here's Bonnie.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. Happy to have you all with us. And I'm really happy to welcome to the show today Kristen Howe, who is playing the Emcee in Cabaret at CV Rep. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Bonnie?
Good. So I love this idea. I don't know, is this the first time, do you know, that a woman has played the Emcee in a production of Cabaret?
I've tried to look. It is, even if it's not the first, it is. I haven't found it. Mm-hmm. I think I found that there was one college production done somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean that it hasn't been done. Right. I just wasn't able to discover it.
Yeah. So were you surprised to get this role when you auditioned? Did you audition specifically for the Emcee role?
I did. I had actually, I did Fun Home here last year, and so I had reached out to Adam and I said, would you even be open to this? And he was like, absolutely. So they had me come in for it, and then I was thrilled. I didn't know, because it's one of those things that you have to be able to see it that way.
Yeah.
Even though it's a very gender-bendy role anyway. Mm-hmm. It's not like suddenly it's like uber feminine, right? It's all sort of in that land of gray.
Right.
So I was thrilled when I got the phone call. I was like, yay, this is fantastic. It's such a cool opportunity.
Yeah. So how do you, what is different, if anything, or how do you approach it differently, since it's a little bit out of the norm from what people are expecting?
I don't know. And I think maybe this is some of the key to it, for me at least, and it would be different for someone else, I'm sure. I actually don't know that I am approaching it differently. It's one of those things that I think I'm looking at it more for what the role stands for to me, which is so much, right? It's a very symbolic role. It really kind of takes people through the journey of the show. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like that role to me, and again, this is my interpretation, becomes a little bit of, a little bit of Berlin, a little bit of, every sort of party that was involved in all of everything that was going on. The entertainers, the entertained, the uprising that was happening in Berlin. And, so it's like I get to be every point of view. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I'm approaching it differently in the sense because of the gender element.
Mm-hmm. And are you visually on stage? Are you dressed in your hair such that it is more sort of gender neutral, just looking at you?
It is more gender neutral. I mean, there's nods to like Marlene Dietrich and things mm-hmm. like that, but it's not going hard one way or the other. It's not mm-hmm. suddenly like, oh, this is a female character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not, oh, she's trying to be a guy.
Mm-hmm.
It is sort of all floating around in the middle, which is really cool. Our costume designer is making some really, really fabulous choices.
Excellent.
So far.
So let's go back. So I was reading a little bit about your bio. Born in New Bedford, Massachusetts, raised in Long Island, attended American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York. So did you know very young as a kid, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. I actually grew up, my parents were both school teachers, and my mom was the head of the English and the drama department. So mm-hmm. I would just sit there and my dad played drums and was very dramatic, very dramatic. That sounds funny, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very into drama as well. And so I was just always surrounded by it. And I remember just loving being enthralled with watching, my mom rehearse the seniors, like in the school show and things like that. And so I was just always very much intrigued by, enamored with that world.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing, since your parents were already sort of in that world, were they very supportive of you pursuing this as a career?
They were.
Excellent.
They were incredibly supportive, which, yes, is I am very lucky in that sense.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. So you went to the Dramatic Academy in New York, and did you find work fairly soon, or did you do a lot of pounding the pavement?
Both. So I went to AMDA, and then I actually went to Maine for a year randomly, just, one of those weird life journeys, and then came back and booked the Radio City Christmas show pretty quickly, which was very exciting. And then did a lot of regional stuff for the next few years. I was pretty fortunate in that I kept working pretty consistently, and then the first big, obviously other than Radio City, but the first big thing was the Broadway National of Joseph, where at first I was the narrator cover, and then I ended up as the narrator standby, and then matinee narrator and all of that stuff. And that's when it was like, yay! And then I went into Annie on Broadway, and sort of kept getting to, and now I'm getting to do all these cool versions of things, right? Adam's so open and visionary, and what he's doing with this theater here is so exciting to see, and it's fun to come and get to play with that as well.
Absolutely. Now, are you based now in LA, or where are you based?
I go back and forth, New York to LA, but yes, I do have a place in LA. I came out here with a show a million years ago, out to LA, not to Palm Springs, and just kind of stuck around, and that's it. I was like, the sunshine's nice and big grocery store aisles and things like that. And so I have a place in LA, and then now post-pandemic, it's been when you self-tape, that used to not really do you any good. And now post-pandemic, we had to do it. And so now you can actually get opportunities in New York and things like that from those. Yeah. So luckily I'm able to kind of jump back and forth. Which is great.
I have to ask you one thing in your bio. Originated the role of Cassandra in the world premiere of One Way Ticket to Hell. I want to hear more about. Yeah, let's hear more about that.
That's the show that brought me out here. So when I was doing Annie on Broadway, a good friend of mine in the show, he was the Warbucks cover, he looked at me and he said, "Darling, I wrote a musical for you." And now, sometimes that's great news, and sometimes that's like, it was great. It was a very dark comedy. It was set in the 50s, and it was good girl gone bad, and she never goes good again. It was campy. It was fun. I think it was a 6-person cast, and myself and one of the guys in it were the only 2 people that played the same part throughout, and everybody else got to play a bunch of different roles. And it was so much fun. And such a joy. I think I had 16 songs or something.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah. It was a lot. It was so much fun and so creative. And we first did it in New York at the theater festival, at the Manhattan Theater Festival, and then Anna Strasberg, Lee Strasberg's wife, saw it and said, "I want it to come out here," and so it went to the Marilyn Monroe Theater out here, and that's actually the show that brought me out here. So much fun.
Yeah. I'd love to ask, I'm a performer as well, I'd love to ask actors, is there a role or couple roles on your bucket list that you'd really want to do that you haven't had a chance to do yet?
Before last year, Allison in Fun Home was one of them, and then I was fortunate enough to get to do that. And this, actually, the Emcee was one. And the only reason I had the idea to ask Adam if he'd be open to it is because years ago when I did Joseph, the music director on that, Patrick Vacariello, who's very, very well known in the industry, was doing the Cabaret, was doing the reboot of Cabaret. And he said, "Would you come in for the Emcee standby?" I never would have thought of it. At that point, I was a Sally, right? It was I never would have thought of it. And he somehow saw that, and it wasn't necessarily going to be the thing then, because we realized being the standby, it wasn't the world that it is now, where people would be like, "Sure, suddenly it's a woman who's appeared." Right? Yeah. So, but it put that in my head, and so that's why when it came up, and so I think it's these creative roles. I mean, sure, I would love to play the witch in Into the Woods, things like that. There's, in Prom, I would love to do the Prom, but it's more about, is this going to be kind of cool and different and fun, and so I don't necessarily think of it in terms of, I know that's such a question, the bucket list roles. I just kind of get excited when the project shows itself, and I'm like, that would be fun.
Well, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah. I also like to ask performers, sounded like you got work pretty steadily, but have you ever had in between what I like to call jobs jobs that aren't like temp work and that kind of stuff? Did you ever have to do any of those? And are you somebody that also, a lot of actors and singers also paint or also do something else sort of on the creative spectrum? And I was wondering about that for you.
Yeah, okay, so I was out of my house at 16, so I did a ton of jobs before my career even started. Worked at a gas station on the overnight shift so I could finish high school, where I would dip the tanks. So I would have to get up on the the oil trucks and dip the tanks to make sure that the amount they said they were giving us was in fact true and all of that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Not very glamorous, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So glamorous. So I had I sprayed trees with pesticides. I had some weird jobs. And then was very fortunate and was able to, in New York, just support myself as an actor. At one point, I decided I needed a break, so I started a dog walking company in New York. Okay. And then randomly ended up running a sales floor and coaching team for a personal development author.
Okay.
In New York.
Okay.
And then, so that was always lovely. That supplemented. And then when I came out to LA, I was like, oh, I should just do this for myself. So I actually am a mindset coach. I have, my own standalone programs and all of that stuff. And, they work really well together, which is great. Yeah. So I've been lucky in that I kind of built something. But yeah, I did a whole bunch of side jobs
stuff, yeah.
early on.
That's great, and I think I think it's a good thing because I think it makes us better performers because you have more life experience to draw
I agree.
on. Yeah, let's talk about the cast for a second. So you're the MC. Merrick Smith is Cliff. Aaron Stoddard, yep. Fraulein Kost. Leslie Tenaro, who I know is a very dear friend of mine. I've worked with her many times. She's fabulous. Is Fraulein Schneider and Cecily Dowd, Sally Bowles, and is Adam's directing this? Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So you guys open January 24th, and I know you're already extended. I know. Because ticket sales
Isn't that
are so
exciting?
good. Yeah, that's great. And I'm coming to see it. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, good.
One more question for you. Do you have a special process that you go through? Obviously, you're in the character. You're immersing yourself in the character. But other than that, just as a performer in general, or if you were to go out and sing somewhere at a cabaret that wasn't part of a show, do you have a particular process that you go through before a performance?
I like to. I really feed off people, so I'm not someone that kind of needs to go off and be on my own. That being said, I need to ground myself first. So it's sort of like this transition from me normal life. Then I'll ground myself, really get myself centered and in that place, and then it's sort of like flipping that switch to, okay, now I'm in this mode, so any of the interacting I'm doing is a little heightened. So it starts to bring me into that awareness, that sort of leaning forward awareness is how I like to refer to it, if that makes any sense. So there's not a ton of, I'm not a big, I do a vocal warm-up for this show. I'll be doing a physical warm-up because I'm incredibly physical in it. Yeah. I'm literally just like sprinting around the stage.
Yeah.
So that stuff, but I don't have any specific processes like that other than just being very mindful of my energy, where it's at, centering it, grounding myself so that it's not all because I'm so athletic as a performer, so it doesn't get away from me.
I love that. Love that idea. Well, Kristen Howe, I can't wait to see it performing, playing the MC in Cabaret CV Rep, opens January 24th, and I don't even, if you're extended, you might already be sold out for that. I'm not sure, but cvrep.org is where you get tickets. Best of luck, break a leg, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, and please come say hi when you come see the show.
I will, absolutely. All right, Kristen Howe, and we'll see the rest of you guys next time on The Desert Scene.
This program was produced by the Mutual Broadcasting System.